Okay, let's talk a little bit of foreign policy, which we don't do a lot of on the show. As you know, I'm the ugliest of ugly American. We will talk when things matter overseas, but I care about my country. That's what I care about. I don't focus anywhere else but here. But we are involved. We're involved with this Russia-Ukraine mess. That wasn't your choice. It certainly wasn't my choice. Don't know why we chose to do it, but we are involved. We've been heaping weapons onto the Ukrainians. When Joe Biden was president, he would publicly brag about the fact that we're sending them all kinds of stuff. Mitch McConnell wants us involved. We're involved. Whether you want us to be or whether I want us to be, we are involved. And Trump has a meeting upcoming with Vladimir Putin. Before we get to that, Trump's comments and everything else, let's talk about life a little bit. Let me give you a little bit of advice. And those who have made this mistake are going to nod their head. And those who haven't will probably think I'm crazy, but I'm going to give you a critical piece of advice for your life. At some point in time, you are going to have somebody close to you getting a divorce. Marriage is breaking up. Maybe it's your sister, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your cousin. I don't know. At some point in your life, just percentages say it, someone in your life you are close to is going to want a divorce, try to get a divorce. And in that moment, because you're a good person, you are going to want to do the things so many people want to do. Step in. Step in and fix it. Hey, let's have dinner together. No, let's go out. No, she's not that bad. Take her back. No, he's not that bad. Listen, there's just a misunderstanding. You are going to want to get involved. I have seen this so many times in my life, and 100% of the time, not 99, not 98, not 50, 100% of the time, it goes so poorly for the person who tries to get involved. Because what happens is, in a marriage, when it breaks up, sadly, there's all this personal animosity, all this history, all this bad blood, bitterness inside. And you step in trying to fix it. You don't fix it. You get burned. You get sucked into it, and you get burned. That's how it works every single time. Stay out of it. Pray for them and let it go. This was, what I just said, was the United States of America's foreign policy since our founding. Not our problem. Stay out of it, not our problem. Oh, what? France and Britain are fighting again? Not our problem. There's a war in Africa. What a shock. Not our problem. They're fighting. Not our problem. Why? Because the founders knew. George Washington, go read George Washington's farewell address. He addressed this specifically. He knew when you try to stick your nose in other people's fights, other people's problems, you don't solve them and you get burned. The history of this region, Russia, Ukraine, is long. I could sit here and do an hour-long history rant on the Crimean War, but I wouldn't want to bore you to death. That was roughly the time of our Civil War, where there were all the Brits, the Russians, they were fighting over this exact piece of ground for this exact reason, the warm water port, the resources, to everything else. We could talk about Joseph Stalin starving millions of Ukrainians to death. This marriage, the whole Russia-Ukrainian marriage, is full of more fights and bitterness and knockdown dragouts, and someone had to call the cops than you can possibly imagine. Now fast forward to the year of our Lord 2025, and of course they're fighting again, they're killing each other again, it's all ugly, it's all terrible, and the United States of America wants to stop it. Donald Trump, to his credit, I should point out, just like you, the reason you stepped in when your sister was getting a divorce. You're a good person. You want the fighting to stop. You want healing there. You want to stop it. It's a mistake. Here was Trump talking about the coming meeting with Putin.
This is really a feel-out meeting, a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times. And I've been disappointed. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin. And at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made.
How will you know that?
Because that's what I do. I make deals.
He's a good man. He is. I understand the man has his flaws like all of us, but he really does want peace. He wants the fighting to stop. He wants the dying to stop. You don't want your sister to get a divorce. Let's have a meeting. But when you sit down with your sister and you tell her, well, look, think about the kids. Look, you don't want to split up the family, the income, but who's going to get the house? It's going to go with her the same way, well, Trump knows it's going to go with Zelensky.
I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled.
I know what he wants. I know why he wants it. It's not going to work. Look, I hope it does, actually. There's nobody better at brokering peace deals than Donald Trump, but I think this is one of those situations where we need to stay out. We should have stayed out from the very beginning. Sad as it may be, Ukraine is not a NATO country. We had no obligation to go in. Russia could have taken what they'd taken without close to this amount of loss of life, and this thing would have been over a long time ago. But instead, these nutball communists had to step in. Joe Biden and all the dirty CIA communists all around him wanted a whole bunch of people to die, didn't care, military-industrial complex cheering it on. And that's another aspect of stepping into this divorce. We're stepping in to get our sister not divorced. We're stepping in to make sure she doesn't get a divorce, all while people are standing on the sidelines cheering, divorce, 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 divorce. People like John Bolton.
What do you make of the fact that Putin has now been invited to Alaska?
Well, it's very gracious of Putin to come to former Russian America for this summit. This is not quite as bad as Trump inviting the Taliban to Camp David to talk about the peace negotiations in Afghanistan, but it certainly reminds one of that. The only better place for Putin than Alaska would be if the summit were being held in Moscow. So the initial setup, I think, is a great victory for Putin. He's a rogue leader of a pariah state, and he's going to be welcomed into the United States. Second, I have a feeling this is sliding very quickly in Russia's direction. I have to say, from the strategic perspective, from the U.S. interest perspective, this was not a good day.
These people are monsters, and they want this thing to continue forever. John Bolton and his stupid mustache would sit there and watch every single Ukrainian die and go to sleep every single night thinking he's the good guy. And by the way, Vladimir Putin, yeah, he's the total piece of crap, complete murderer. I get all that. He's not a rogue leader. Why do they say that? He's the leader of Russia, one of the most powerful countries on earth. He's the leader. He's, by the way, a fairly popular leader in the country that holds the most nuclear weapons on the planet. He's not some tin pot dictator in the Middle East somewhere. He is the leader of Russia. You can hate that all you want, but he is. This is our crappy situation. We continue to stick our nose in this situation, and it continues to go poorly for us. Let's hope next week I'm sitting here and saying, wow, that was wrong. We did it. Peace at last. I pray to God that's coming, but hasn't happened yet. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I love sleeping. And that's actually not true. I love waking. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've ever had a bad night's sleep, it's not necessarily the night that's as miserable as the wake up, and immediately you know your day's gonna suck. You know it's gonna be horrible. You're gonna be in a bad mood. Your eyes are gonna be scratchy. It's horrible. But when you had that great night's sleep and your eyes flutter open and you know, oh, that was good sleep. I'm gonna be in a good mood. I'm gonna be great at work. I'm gonna be great at school. Life is better, isn't it? That's what Beam is all about. Natural sleep. You see, I know there are a bunch of things you can take to help you sleep. They're all terrible for you. That's why you wake up feeling groggy. Beam is natural. It's got a bunch of natural things in it, like reishi. And it's a cup of delicious hot chocolate. You go to sleep, you wake up feeling great every single day. Go try a bag. Shopbeam.com/Jesse Kelly.
There are no refs in this game. The rules. We are going to win whatever it takes. We're going to take this to them in every way that we can. Next time we win power, we're going to drive that car like we stole it. We're going to legalize every dreamer's parents, every hardworking American doing backbreaking work that makes this country so great in the first place, even greater as U.S. citizens.
What is with the cussing? And I realize we beeped it all out there, but you can use your imagination on what he said. The cussing now from Democrats all the time. Joining me now, you know what? I'm asking Buck about that. Joining me now, host, of course, of the Clay and Buck Show. Everybody knows him, my friend Buck Sexton. Buck, there are a lot of theories that are getting tossed around. We'll get to the redistricting stuff in a minute. About the cussing Democrats do now. It's always F this and F that and F this and F that. Whereas, I mean, for most of our lives, buddy, we never heard either party say this. Why?
It's because people have started to do the math and look at the science, I think, Jesse, and understand that there's a clear correlation between low age-adjusted testosterone in Democrat men and being left-wing. So this is a compensation. It's absolutely true, by the way. If you are a low T beta male, the chance that you are very left-wing in your politics is incredibly high. And I think that they believe that by cursing, it makes them look tough, makes them look like they've got, but really what it makes them look like is the kid who's got like the beginnings of a mustache in junior year of high school, who's like desperate to buy beer, who's like, yeah, like, look at my mustache. Like you can trust me. You don't need my ID. That's the pathetic level that Democrats have sung to here. And Beto O'Rourke, by the way, has this guy ever had a real job? I mean, I really asked that. He married a rich lady, by the way. I don't think he's ever had a real job. I promise you he's never been in any kind of actual fistfight or altercation, but he gets up there and does this fake tough guy wannabe Texan act. And it's sad. He's a little trust fund brat, or at least someone else's trust fund that he gets to attach himself to. And I hope he runs on the open borders message. I hope he runs on telling Americans, you know what we need? 10 million more dependents. 10 million more people scamming the system. Don't you love crowded ERs and schools where English as a second language is more popular than actually teaching English? Yeah, that's great. Run with that.
I'm actually glad you brought this up. I find this fascinating because there's always been an element of when you're running in a primary, Republican or Democrat, you're going to have to say some things or take some positions that may turn off kind of the normie morons who vote one way or the other. But there's that normal thing, and then there's what Democrats have now where you have to take the 20% side of every single 80-20 issue or you can't gain popularity in the party. But all the normies out there are never going to vote for that. And Chuck Schumer's had to move way to the left. Not that he wasn't always a lefty, way to the left just to avoid getting primaried by AOC. To be a Democrat today, you have to take insane positions that means you can't get elected. How do they get out of that minefield?
I'm actually surprised that they haven't had that moment yet where they start to change course here or start to maybe, cut away the anchors that are pulling them down to the ocean floor, because that's exactly what's going on, especially with things like, okay, yeah, you can keep telling us that a 200-pound guy who now has grown his hair out long and painted his fingernails doesn't have an advantage over, Susie, Sally, and Sarah on the high school lacrosse team, but we're sick of being lied to. Like it doesn't matter how often you repeat this. We can all see that you're out of your minds, Democrats. And I think the issue is that they've used these so effectively as mobilization tools for so long. And they also, I think, got overconfident between COVID and the dominance they had with the social media platforms all colluding with them, where they thought they could ram delusion into our brains across the country. And now they're dealing with the backlash from that, which is, it turns out, half the country does not want to act like they're truly insane. Maybe a little more than half the country. And that's a problem for the Democrats. And I think it's probably more like a 70, or as you said, to 20%, so an 80-20 issue. I don't know how they walk away from this, though, because the activist class and the donor class for the Democrats are the craziest now. That's what people have to understand. The lifestyle issues that the billionaires like, the Reid Hoffmans of the world are willing to fund have nothing to do with like the old Democrat Party of unions and blue collar labor or whatever. No, it's all race, communism, and gender insanity funded by billionaires who have never even gotten calluses on their hands from doing anything. I mean, this is the Democrat Party of today.
Yeah, I'm blown away at how they overcome that, because it's the donors, like you just pointed out. It's not just the rabid street animals with the purple hair on the streets that are gluing themselves to the highway. The people who fund the Democrat Party demand they take insane positions that can't make them win. I just saw a poll recently, I forget what it was, but they were talking about Democrat donors, and they essentially said, these Democrats that are donors, the billionaires, want us to fight Trump harder. That was the position they take. The billionaire donors are not telling Democrats to slow down, Jasmine Crockett, take off your eyelashes. They're not saying these things. They're telling you, no, double down, triple down, so they're just screwed?
Well, the point of being a billionaire leftist is that you get to chinwag among your social set, which is going to be basically other, let's just be honest, tech billionaires or inherited money billionaires. You're going to be able to tell them about how virtuous you are and what a badass you are by writing these checks. I mean, you look at somebody like, try to get in the mindset of now Alex Soros. It was George Soros before, or George Schwartz, I believe was his original name. He changed his name to Soros. Try to get in the mind of some of these individuals. Like, what does this guy Alex Soros think he's doing? He is funding things that make him feel important and brave, or at least important and tough, because he's a radical. There's nothing radical about this guy. He's been flying private his entire life. He's never done a hard day's work in his life. He's never had to worry about paying a bill in his life, but he wants to cosplay as some kind of revolutionary. And by writing checks to the street communists, as you point out, he's able to do that. And he's able to act like he somehow has worth beyond the dollars in the bank account that he didn't earn. Now you just extrapolate that out for the entire Democrat donor class, and you see what their politics really are. It's a politics of showiness. It's a politics of self-importance dressed up as concern for other people. Because if you're concerned for other people, you certainly wouldn't be funding like Soros DAs who turn every city into a hellscape where everyone's being preyed upon by barbarians all the time. But that's what they do.
I almost forgot Soros and that beard he married, Uma, whatever her stupid name is. All right, Buck, are we gonna do okay in the midterms? I feel like with the redistricting stuff, which I know is not going to go into effect by then, but with the deportations, and I feel like we might do okay. But you and I've had this talk before.
Yeah, I know. I'm not, Clay's the optimistic one. He's the happy one. I'm the bitter one. So I'm the one who's always like, I think we're screwed. He loves sports. Clay is like the, he's the golden retriever, and I'm a little more like the angry bloodhound who's in the backyard, doesn't want to be bothered. I would just say this. I would say I think that we're going to keep the Senate, which is obviously very helpful, very good for judges and getting people through. Although that judicial machinery needs to work a lot more smoothly than it has been. I also think that we're going to be in pretty good shape to hold the House. Actually, and this is what I've been telling everybody. This stuff happens so quickly, as you know, Jesse. Trump has 18 months, and look, he's moving at an incredible pace. I have no complaints about the issues that they're focusing on, the speed with which they're focusing on it. I had tons of complaints in the first Trump administration, but they had a clown show making a lot of the decisions under Trump, so that wasn't really a surprise. It was just a lot of screw ups. You had to fire a lot of people. This time around, though, they are locked in, but they only have 18 months, maybe less, to do big things, because then it just turns into a midterm fight. And the only thing Democrats will exist to do if they take the House is be as not just obstructive, because, fine, both parties want to stop the other party, as insane as possible. Whatever a Democrat majority House can do to be as crazy as possible is what they will do. So I view it as really existential for the Trump agenda to maintain the House and the Senate. I think they can, though, I'd go as far as to say I think they will, Jesse. I actually think they will, which is unlikely in an off-year election. But look at how sunny my disposition is today. Shocking, your viewers. Shocking.
How about that? How about that? Now I'm in a good mood. Thanks, Buck. Appreciate you, brother. Know what I had for breakfast this morning? I actually got the idea from my kid. Came out, he had gotten some extra crunchy peanut butter, and he was putting it on a banana. It's a great snack. So I'm putting it on a banana, but after I'm done with my peanut butter and banana, I did the same thing I do when I'm having breakfast tacos, when I'm having sausage McMuffins, biscuits and gravy. There's one thing that goes with my breakfast every single day, and that's a male vitality stack from Chalk. Walked over to the pantry, got my stack, took my stack. Over 3 years, I have never taken a single thing in my life for more than a couple months. I've taken a male vitality stack from Chalk for over 3 years because I feel so good. My energy, my mood. You want a 20% increase in your testosterone level. You want your mood to be better. You want to sleep better. You want to feel better. Join me and have what I have for breakfast. Not the banana. Well, I guess you can have that too. Chalk.com/JesseTV. Have you ever heard the phrase, holding on to the tiger by the ears? Or I've actually heard it a different way, holding on to a wolf by the ears. You ever heard that phrase? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. The obvious explanation for it is you're in a very dangerous situation, okay? Because you got a tiger in front of you and you're holding him by the ears. But obviously you only have so much strength. You can only hold on to his ears for so long. Do you let him go? If you let him go, he's going to eat you. At some point, you're in a dangerous situation, but at the same time, you have no choice but to hold on to the tiger by the ears. In a lot of ways, communists do this. They get themselves trapped. They get themselves trapped because their evil nature is horrific, and they can't lie about everything forever. You can lie about everything for a while. You can fool, what's that saying? You can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. I don't know if that's the saying, but it's very close to it. If you're a communist, you believe in control because you're fighting a revolution and trying to destroy everything. So you can't lead with that. You have to lie. Lies are built in. We talk about that. Lie, 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 lie. And that will work for a time. On some people, it'll work all the time. The Democrat in your life, they believe all of them. But eventually people wake up. For instance, remember when Joe Biden took a little tumble on the stage? Embarrassing. I get it. Embarrassing. Terrible. It was an embarrassing moment. I got it. You got it. But here's the thing. In the immediate aftermath of that, his staff started to get concerned, you see. Started to get concerned because they talk with him every single day. They walk with him every single day. And they knew before he tumbled on stage that he was not a functional adult, that he was not able to walk and talk. They knew. And so what did they do? Well, here's what they did.
And just to make sure we clear the record here, he tripped over a sandbag on the stage, and briefly he tripped and got up, and he got right back up and continued what he was there to do. He did not. There was no need for the doctor to see him as it was related to the fall.
America is a country that loves youth and vitality, which is why we have laws against age discrimination, because we tend to favor youthfulness and the new thing. In a lot of countries, people who've been in office a longer period of time are praised for their wisdom. And I think that Joe Biden rightly says that he has grown very wise in his many decades in public office.
Look, I'm more than 2 years older than President, and I do just fine. I don't want to have a fall, but if I do, I hope I get up as good as he did.
Yeah, people fall down. I believe he tripped. But, I'm just...
Didn't he reply something like I was sandbagged?
Yeah,
it was
he
a
was very
sandbag
funny
that he
about
tripped
it.
on? Yeah.
But what is this obsession? People are just... I've known old people all my life. And I've never seen this kind of obsession with, people being old and what the hell? What the hell? Because everybody's getting there. So, yeah.
He's just wiser than ever. Why are you mad that they lie? They did what they do. It's built into communists. They lie about everything at all times. They lied. Well, that works for a while until it doesn't. Remember? Do you remember? I remember how quickly the polls started to show that the American people were getting concerned about Joe Biden's age. Poll after poll after poll after poll would come out, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. The communists could lie for a while. Lied to get him elected. Lied for the first year. Eventually, got to let go of the tiger's ears. Dome's actually a great example. The communists, because she's black and a woman, have done the best they can to prop her up as being a good candidate. It's how she was able to rise. Well, it's part of how she was able to rise through the ranks in California politics, from one position to the next position to the next position. This is a woman who can't even talk. Why? Because the communists were lying at all times. She's Kamala Harris, she's a genius, she's brilliant, she's wonderful, she's this, she's that. But that was all a lie. Eventually she rose to be vice president of the United States of America, which was obviously a diversity hire. Joe Biden announced it. I'm only going to pick a black woman. He picked her, elevated her, and then when he dropped out, handpicked her to be the nominee. But it was, again, all a lie, all smoke and mirrors. She was a terrible candidate. Donald Trump stomped her after they handed her $2 billion to run, and a new Emerson poll came out, not a national poll, a Democrat primary poll, and Dome, the former vice president, the former Democrat nominee for president of the United States of America, is in third place. That brings me to a prediction I brought up on this show multiple times, but allow me to bring it up again. Everyone thinks Kamala Harris is going to run for president in 2028. And she may, don't get me wrong, she may, but I say she won't. She has already announced she's not going to run for governor. We all assumed that meant she was going to run for president, but Dome has one more shot. One more shot to be the nominee. If she's already polling in third behind Newsom in the rear admiral, I say she sits it out. She's not old, 60. Politics, that's not old at all. Wait 4 years, wait 8 years, hang around, maybe read a book and try for it one more time. I say she sits it out. And speaking of Dome, actually, there's a story. It's going to sound small, but this story about Dome and J.D. Vance's kids is actually... It's a pretty good example of why the Democrat Party is currently on the outs in America. And you see, here's what it is. I've explained this to you before, men and women, but I'm mainly talking to women, especially young women. Everyone hates a feminist. Maybe you're flirting with feminism. Maybe the musician you love promotes it. Maybe your friends talk about it all the time. Yeah, you go, girl. You can do anything a man can do. Okay, I'm not here to talk you out of that ridiculousness. That's not actually what I'm here to say. I am here to tell you that everyone will hate you, everybody. Even other feminists hate being around feminists because they're bitter and they're nasty and they're nags and they're petty, and nobody in the history of mankind has ever sat down and said, wow, I wish I could hang out with a feminist today. If you choose that route, that I am woman, hear me roar route, everyone will hate your guts. You turn into a nasty human being. Listen to this story. This is why everyone hates Democrats now. Listen to this.
So when you moved into the vice president's residence, had you seen it before?
No, I had never seen it before, and there was a bit of a controversy. I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I think that normally it's customary for the outgoing vice president to show the incoming vice president's family the house. Mm-hmm. And we have 3 little kids, so I guess at the time our kids were like 7, 5, and 2. I guess Mirabelle turned 3 right before the inauguration. And so now they're a little bit older, but they had never seen this house, and Usha really wanted to show them. And so what we actually proposed is, recognizing the weirdness of the politics, can Usha take the kids over and just show them where they're going to be living for the next 4 years? And they were rebuffed.
She said, no, your kids can't come over. It sounds small, but that petty, vindictive, nasty feminist attitude is exactly why Democrats are losing younger generations, not just younger men. Young women don't want to be hateful and miserable and hated by everybody. Young men especially hate. They have a natural disdain for this kind of nasty pettiness. Honestly, and it goes beyond just personal things with people's kids. The Teamsters Union has traditionally been about as reliable a Democrat vote as there is in the United States of America. But not when the feminist walks in the room.
We had a general executive board meeting probably around June of 2024. And there was an event that one of our vice presidents, Joan Corey, she's out of my local, she went to, I don't know if it was an Emily's List event, the day before our general executive board, and Vice President Harris was there. And so they do a photo op line. So Joan goes in the line and Joan says, I'm Joan Corey, I'm a vice president with the Teamsters Union. And she pointed her finger at Joan and said, Teamsters better get on board. And so Joan says, excuse me? Yeah, Teamsters better get on board. I don't know why you haven't endorsed me yet. So she comes back and she tells me this. And I'm like, the nerve. Her closing was, listen, I'm going to win with you or without you. And it was like such a smug answer, like, okay. And that turned the majority of the people in that room off.
Turns people off. Young ladies, I know you may be mad at me right now. The path to being hated by everyone in your life is to embrace feminism. You'll become a bitter, nasty hag who everyone hates. And so, look, they've gone that route, or they try to butch up. They've lost middle America. They've lost the Teamsters Union. They've lost construction guys. They've lost the blue collar. The Democrat Party has become the urban elite party, and you can't win elections like that. So how do you win back the blue collar guys? Well, you can roll Tim Walz out there like they did during the campaign trail, watch him struggle to load a shotgun. Or you can do this cursing thing they all do now.
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the and we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the fucking rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some fucking power.
F this and F that and F this. It sounds like a rated R movie now. This is all very forced. This is all about trying to be relatable to blue collar guy. Instead of just, not being terrible to everybody, they just say the F word. We'll see how it works out for them. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. Okay, let's talk about cleaning out the government. And it's time to hand out some credit where credit is due. I don't exactly hesitate to attack the right, to attack the GOP when I see weakness and failure. And obviously, you don't have to look hard to find that in the GOP. But when they're doing good, we should be pointing that out as well. I believe that is the right thing to do. Now, let's talk about the federal government before we get to some specifics, FBI, CIA, and otherwise. As you know, the federal government was weaponized against the right in horrible ways under Obama, and then especially got put into hyperdrive under Joe Biden. How did they do that? Why did they do that? Well, they did that by filling up the government with communists. The saying is as old as time, personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. How many times have you heard that? Well, it's a fact. If you fill up the government with committed communists who hate Republicans, then you're inevitably, wherever you put those committed communists, you're going to have that organization attacking Republicans and protecting Democrats. Barack Obama worked very hard during his 8 years to put those people into place all over the government. Joe Biden got to drive the sports car that Barack Obama built and turn the federal government loose on the right in every possible way. It's probably the most evil thing I've ever seen from the government in the United States of America, and that's saying something. So we have, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino taking over the FBI. Well, they may be in charge, right? But just because you're sitting in the big office, in the big suite, doesn't mean you are firmly in control of everything. When you have a multi-thousand person, something like 35,000 employees, thousands of employees underneath you with manager after manager after manager who's a commissar, it's going to take work to get them out. And unlike the private sector, sadly, you can't fire these freaking people. It takes forever. But they are getting rid of them. Brian Driscoll. Brian Driscoll is a piece of trash. Brian Driscoll's gone. Steve Jensen. He was a senior agent at the FBI, really heading up the persecution of the January 6ers. Remember how the FBI would hunt down people, pound on their doors, sending SWAT teams after peaceful people? Yeah, he's gone too. Walter Giardina, fired. You remember Peter Navarro? Peter Navarro, who came on this show several times. Peter Navarro offered through his attorney. He lived right by the FBI. He told the FBI, if you're going to come get me, I didn't do anything wrong, but just let me know. I'll come turn myself in. The FBI said, no, we're not interested. And then they grabbed him and cuffed him in the jetway of an airport to humiliate him on top of everything else. The guy who did that's gone too. Again, we have to hand out credit where credit is due. And I realize we have a very, very long way to go, but that we are cleaning out the commissars is a good thing that we should feel good about. Give yourself some wins. Don't succumb to the cynicism. I do this all the time too, of, well, it's not enough. That's not enough. We have more to go. They should go to jail. And I'm not saying you're wrong about any of that. I agree. It's not enough. More should go to jail. More should be fired. It's not enough, but it's something. Not just the FBI. Honestly, maybe more frightening than the FBI is what has happened at the Central Intelligence Agency. When America's intelligence agency, spy agency that isn't even supposed to operate domestically, starts operating domestically on behalf of Democrats and against Republicans, it's a big deal. So when you see segments like this on MSNBC, it really should put a smile on your face.
Brian Driscoll became something of a folk hero, as you mentioned, when he was named the acting director, accidentally, by the way. His name was put in the wrong place in a chart. And then he stood up to a plan by the Trump administration that seemed like it was poised to fire hundreds, if not thousands, of FBI agents who had worked on those January 6 cases. He resisted that. And yet he retained his job and his continued employment in the Bureau, as well as with Jensen and some of these other people, provided a little bit of hope that it was possible to dissent from some aspect of Trump administration policy, or at least to push back and keep your job. Well, that day is over. The message has been sent very clearly, and morale inside the FBI, guys, is about as low as I've ever heard it described as I talk to people.
That's wonderful. Washington Post reporting CIA officials are leaking that Gabbard is overriding their concerns. FBI cleaning out, Gabbard cleaning it out. And by the way, I brought up the CIA. We have a long way to go there because, again, it's an organization that it's based on lies. It kind of has to be. Spies don't get to announce their presence when they're doing it, so you have a bunch of professional, trained liars inside of the building. Tulsi acknowledged as much as what she said.
John Brennan and James Clapper, as leaders in the intelligence community, they have their own disciples. They have a lot of their own people that they brought in with them, or that they, mentored in a mirroring of their own image. And many of those people still exist within the intelligence community now. Fundamentally, we are working towards making change, institutional change. And this is a major area of focus for me, institutional change that will undo the infrastructure that people like John Brennan and James Clapper built, that allowed these bad actors to thrive and to be promoted into very, very powerful positions within the intelligence community.
That infrastructure she's talking about, that's what we mentioned earlier from Barack Obama. They put into place a communist infrastructure system where if you proved yourself to be a loyal commissar, you would get promoted. And now we have to get the criminals out. And look, people are doubtful. Honestly, I'm doubtful that we're going to see indictments and arrests just because we've never seen them. These criminals always get away with it. But I keep getting more and more hopeful as we keep getting bigger and bigger people saying they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. It's not a small deal that the Vice President of the United States of America is saying this.
I absolutely want to see indictments, Maria. Look, of course, you've got to have the law follow the facts here. You don't just indict people to indict people. You indict people because they broke the law. But if you look at what Tulsi and Kash Patel have revealed in the last couple of weeks, I don't know how anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. And I absolutely think they broke the law, and you're going to see a lot of people get indicted for that.
A lot of people getting indicted. That means a lot. And it means a lot because I don't think the Vice President of the United States of America drops that hot potato in Pam Bondi's lap unless he's been given assurances that there's something there. We've had Tulsi Gabbard come out and say, it's time. Vice President, it's time. It's time. All these big shots keep saying it's time. Very clearly, they think they have something. I think they do. It's time to lighten the mood. And you know what's funny to me is, remember, I guess I don't even know if I can call myself new to the media world because it's been 7 years now, but for most of my life, I've just lived a normal life like a normal person, right? I was just a construction worker, a Marine. I wash dishes, right? I'm just a normal person like you. I sold RVs, do normal things. And now there are entire countries who hate me, including China. China hates my guts. I can't even visit there because of one little segment I did on Tucker Carlson back in the day. We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need a military that's flat-out hostile. We need a military full of type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skull. It's no big deal. I have to have a military built for China. Either way, the Chi-Coms are super mad about that still. They were right about it. They hate me. And so when two Chinese vessels run into each other, I mean, you can just hear them on the microphone, ruh-roh, you know, it's hilarious. Rook out! Let's see you tomorrow.